So to open RStudio, you go to the Windows search bar here on your desktop. You type in RStudio. It should pop up. Click and open. So the RStudio provides an environment with many features to make using R easier. So the RStudio has 4 panels, what we can refer to as windows. The first window down here, this part is the console. The second window, which is here, is the script editor window. The third window here is the environment, history, connections, and tutorial window. And the last part here is the fourth window. There you have the files, plots, packages, help, viewer, and presentation. Let's take them one after the other and briefly introduce what each window does and what they are all about. Starting with the console window here. So think of this console window as a place where you talk directly to Arrow. It's like having a conversation with Arrow where you give it instruction and it will respond. So when you type a command in the console, like 3 plus 5, and you hit the enter button in your desktop, it will give you the results. In this case, the result is 8. So this is what the console does. It carries out commands and it will show the output. There is a downside to using the console to write commands or to write codes, and that is that after each session, it cannot save what you've done. So that's where the script editor window becomes very handy. In the script editor window, what you simply do there is to type commands that you can save. You type commands that you can save. So, for instance, I'm going to type commands which I've typed in the console. 3 plus 5. Here, to run the code, I have to press Control and Enter at the same time. And it will run the code and display it in the console again. So the advantage of writing these codes in the script editor window is that I can go to my file and I can save the codes for this session, and it will be saved in my laptop, in my desktop, as the case may be. So the script editor helps us to save codes, help us to edit codes, knowing that we can save it. The console, you can also write codes there. However, and also in the console, you can get your output. However, when you close that session, you won't have access to the codes anymore. So that's why it's encouraged that you save your codes. You write your codes in the script editor window. The third window here is the environment window. Here, what is displayed in the environment essentially is variables that you've created in the course of your project or your analysis, or probably you have data sets that you have brought into your analysis to be displayed there as well. And if you have objects that has values, they will also be displayed there. The other section is the history section, which is here. The history section essentially keeps a record of the commands you have previously entered into the console. It's a handy way to see what you have done, and you can also go there to reuse commands without retyping them, and reuse any of these commands without having to retype them. The connections in the environment panel shows you any data that you have connected with and probably uh, gotten any server that you've connected with to get data into the RStudio for analysis. It will show you those connections here. The tutorial section is for anybody who wants to learn about the arrow codes and the Arrow Studio. So you have the tutorial section. You just have to start the tutorial, but before you start, you may have to download the learner package to help you get access to the tutorials. But it's good you know that Arrow has inbuilt tutorials for anybody who wants to learn the basics of R as well. The fourth window contains the files. So here is showing the files that I already have in my system. And if I create a new file, it will be displayed here. And those files are important. And you will see how to create a new file where you can save what you are doing in R. So it keeps a very good record in your computer of all the analysis you've done. The plots here will display any plots you've um, designed or any plots you have put forward in R. Maybe you write a command and it will display a plot to be displayed here. Packages. We're going to talk more about packages in another video, but packages are an extension of the arrow code, arrow functions. So the packages give arrow power and gives arrow a very, that's why many people like using arrow because of these packages. And we'll talk more on the packages later. So we have different packages that contains different functions to carry out different tasks in analysis, data manipulation, and housekeeping. Anything you want to do, there are different packages for different tasks. These are packages that were designed by other people and stored in the Arrow archive. So we have access to them and we can use them as well. Help you can ask for help in R. I'm going to show you how to do that. Let's say I don't understand anything. I come to the console. I put a question mark first and I type that particular function which I need help on. Let's say I want to find mean. I don't know. This is a function mean. I don't know what it contains, how to use it. So if I click enter, the help section will help me to bring up the everything about the mean as a function, what it does, all the codes and the arguments, how to use it, how to write the codes related to the mean, and so on. So this is a very useful tool that Arrow has provided as well. So these are the different aspects of the Arrow Studio. Put together, they are referred to as the integrated development environment of so before we start, it is important to do some housekeeping. You have to prepare the Arrow Studio before you begin your data analysis or your data manipulation. So we're going to first of all learn what a project is in the Arrow Studio. So a project is like your own little workspace for your data and your codes. It's a place where you organize everything related to a specific task or analysis that you are working on. So it's important before you begin your analysis, um, you realize that that analysis or whatever you are doing is actually a project. And it's also good that you store that project in a location in your laptop, in your system. So that location that you store your project is called the directory or the working directory. So the working directory is important we create the working directory before we begin using so the question is how do you create a project and how do you create the location which is the working directory? That's a place where you keep whatever you are doing. So your project is the analysis, the whatever thing you are doing in RStudio, and where it is located, where you wish to keep that project is the working directory. So now let's look at this. How do we do it here? So the first thing is after you open your RStudio, you go to the file menu here, click, and then you move to new project, click. It shows this dialog box where you have options. You choose the new directory and new project. So you give a name to your project. I want to give my name as intro dash to dash R. It will also prompt you to select or create where in your system your project to be saved, more like the directory now where to be saved, the location in your system. So by default, I've made sure mine should be saved in my desktop. You can see it there. You can see it there. But if it's empty, if yours is empty, you can browse for a location and you click that location and it will be displayed here. As soon as that is done, create, and the RStudio we create in the file panel the project name. So you can see it intro to r.r project. So this is my working directory, and this is the name of my project. So when you get here, you notice that all of a sudden the windows in R has just become 3. And you begin to wonder, oh, what's happening? What do I have to do? So what you simply have to do to see the fourth window is to go to File again, right? And there you create new file, put it on new file, and then arrow script, and you click. So to open up the fourth window, which is the script editor window. So after setting up all this, you are actually ready to start writing your commands and manipulating your data and carrying out your data analysis. But at this point, I will encourage that you need to save this arrow script file by going to File again. All right, you see Save As. You can see Save As. You click, and it will show you in your system. You save it, and anytime you write a name there, it will be under the project. So this particular file is under this project. So I'm going to open it up. I want to write maybe intro again. To you can give it any name you want, but I just want to put it into. I decide to give it this name. So this is your option. You can decide to say to give it any name. So after that, click save. So you see quickly that in your file panel, this file has been created under the project. So this is how you create your script file where you're going to write the script. And when you click save next time after writing, click after writing your script, it will go directly to this location here in your system. So you'll have easy access to it. Sometimes there are alternatives, there are different ways you can create this working directory where you can save your projects. And here I use this often. I just go to tools. This is the option 2. You go to tools here and you go to you go to session, you go to set working directory, and then you choose working directory. So same thing, you can choose your working directory and you save. And by the time you click open, that will be your working directory. But we're not using this option now because we've used the first option. So I'm going to click cancel. You may also want to create, um, even before that, let's say you are lost, you don't know where your working directory is, you just started analysis without thinking of setting up working directory, the location where your project will be saved. And you are interested in finding out where the working directory is located in your system. Yeah, to do that, you simply have to type a simple function. It's called get working directory. Get WD with brackets, empty brackets. If you click enter, it will show you where your working directory is located. And you can see this is it here for me. So it's on my desktop, and this is the name of my working directory. So that's a very short, a good way to find out where your working directory is. Get WD function. It's so helpful. It helps you to locate where your working directory is. Now, let's say you want to also create sub files. You want to create files in your working directory where you can keep different aspects of your analysis. Maybe you want to create a sub file where you can keep your raw data, and want to create another file where you can keep your intermediate data so that you can still have the raw data, for instance. And maybe you also want to create where you can keep your figures that you have created in the course of your analysis. So sometimes we may want to have sub files on this. So it's important that we create these sub files, and it is very easy to do that in R so that each time you can put your raw files in a different file folder, or you can put your results or your intermediate data set that you have manipulated in a different folder. And you can also keep your figures that you've created in a different folder. So let's get to do that. And it's very easy. You come to this file compartment, which is the fourth panel, and if you look at it, you see new file here, or new folder. Click on it and you give it a name. Let's say this is for the raw data. So I just want to name this data. And if I click OK, it creates this as a sub file or a sub directory for me. I can go back again, click on it. I say results, where I keep my intermediate data sets and this data set I have already manipulated. Click OK, and to create that. And let's say I'm interested in creating another one for my figures. So I keep everything neat and clean. Then I click again, OK, and it saves it. So I am ready to go. I'm ready to start. I've made sure I've done the housekeeping that I need to do before I start writing any single code. But there is one more thing which I encourage that we do as well, and that is to wrap or wrapping. And this is necessary when lines of code are long, exceeding the width of the editor or the screen here. That it's more than the screen length here. And so wrapping ensures that this text automatically moves to the next line instead of extending off the screen horizontally. So it keeps your code visible to you instead of it going or extending horizontally off the screen. So it's important you do that. So you don't have to be looking, you don't have to be doing things like this, moving your windows to see all the codes. So to do that, and let me give you an example. Let's demonstrate um, an example how this can actually happen and the usefulness of using wrap when it comes to writing your codes. So this is a code which I've pre-written. I'll just copy it and put it on the script editor panel so that you can all see. You can see it here. So you notice that this code is pretty long and it goes outside, you see. So if I do something like this, I won't see all the codes. If this is my window, this is the extent of my window, my script editor window. You can't see what's written underneath there. And that's because the wrap has not been enabled. So to enable the wrap, you just go to the menu bar here, which is the top here. It's at the menus here, and you click on code. Then you look for soft wrap long lines. If you enable this, you notice it has um, brought the remaining codes that would have been outside the um, the length of the editor window. It has brought it down to the next line so that I can see everything without having to move like this or like that or like this. So this is a very good housekeeping that you need to do at the very beginning. Make sure you enable the wrap option, and that's will be very, very useful in your analysis. The next step for us here is interacting with R. How do you interact with R? So now that we have our interface and directory structure set up, let's start playing with R. And there are two main ways of interacting with R in RStudio. It's either you use the console or by using the script editor. Remember, the script editor is where you write your text codes or you have your text that contains your code and you can save it. This is where we are now. And this here is the console. So we are going to see how we interact with both of them. And we are starting with the console window. So the console window in Arrow, which is here, is the place where Arrow is waiting for you to tell it what to do and where it will show the results of all your commands. So you can type command directly into this console. Like I said earlier, they will be forgotten when you close this session. So let us start by typing in some commands into it. Let's start by typing in some commands. Like we've displayed before, type 3 plus 5. Very simple. Click enter and it will display 8 for you. But you also get to see that immediately there is 1 written in the brackets. You can see in the square brackets there is 1 just before the answer is displayed. So you begin to wonder what this is. I'm going to explain it in a very short while. But it's important you know that this 1 is not part of the results. Rather, it's just telling us the number of elements you have in your result or in your output. So I'm going to use another example to explain this as we move along. So this is how you interact with the console. You type a code, click enter, and it will display the results. How about the script editor? It is the place where you also enter the commands and you can save your commands or your scripts. It also gives opportunity for you to comment freely on what your command is doing. So the script editor helps you not just to write code and save it, you can also include comments in the script editor such that next time it is easy for you to remember what your commands or your codes are. It's also easy for you to show others how you did what you did. Okay, and so that makes R very, very useful. So you can, with the comment by the side, you know exactly um, what you did before and also how you can um, replicate it because the code is there with the comments beside it. So we are going to demonstrate this now by doing something a little bit different from what we've done before. Let's say we are able to let's say we want to do exactly the same thing. I've written the code here already. You notice that I have written some comments before I carried the code, so I know what this 3 plus 5 is. So this here is referred to as the comments. So in R, if you want to write comments, you start with an hashtag. So when arrows see an hashtag, it knows that this is a comment. You can write whatever you want to write after that hashtag to let arrow know that this is a comment. To know what the code is about. So comments are very useful. So I can write something like, this is a trial. So if I click on this code by Control, Enter, it will display the results in the console, but you notice that it ignores the comments. But if I don't put the comments, the hashtag to show is a comment, I'll get an error code. And you see this red star here is telling me that there is something wrong. So anytime you see this, it means there's something wrong with your codes. So you have to take a second look. So because there is no hashtag here, the arrow is not seeing it as a code. So if I request to run this, control enter at the console, you will notice that I'm getting an error message. I'm getting an error message, and that's simple because arrow cannot process these statements here. Cannot process this. It's not a code that it recognizes. So if I put an hashtag before it and I run it again, therefore you notice quickly that the star has disappeared, and when you run it, it will output the result for you. So this is a good place to now demonstrate what this square bracket and one, what it means. Like I said, it tells you the index. It helps you to know this element, this result, 8 is the first element in the result. 5 is the only element. What if I ask R to do something different? Like I ask R to um, give me numbers from 1 is to 200, right? If I click on that, don't worry about this code, don't worry about what is C and what I am doing. C is a function. I'll explain all this when we discuss function in a different video. So please try and watch that. I click enter. You notice that in the console, it has displayed the result of what I've requested. I've simply requested R to um, to generate numbers from 1 to 100, and you see it displayed it here. But something interesting. So you see this square bracket one, it's telling me that this one is the first element. And the second line, you notice this is 29 in the square bracket, telling me that this 29 is the 29th element in the results. Same thing for the 57th element and the 85th element. So if I want to find out what this element is, I know that this is the 85th. I can count from there 86, 87, 88, 89, 90th. So this is the 90th element. So that helps us to organize. So arrow help us to organize the output, the results, using the square brackets and numbers within them. And we know um, how this result is orientated. So these different numbers, they are called the elements in the output. And this square bracket tells us what the first element in that line is in terms of the number. So this is number 1, this is the first, and so on. So that's why it's good to also understand what this square bracket and what the numbers inside simply means. So at this point, let's move on to some other issues we may have with the command line. Now, if the command line is ready to accept any code, it will show you with this greater than sign. The greater than sign is called the um, prompt. Prompt. It's prompting you to put the code. It means it is ready for you. It wants to take a command from you. So anytime you run a valid command, the console will return this prompt sign here, asking you, you are now ready to add another command. You are good, you are ready. So if I type in 3 plus 5 and I click enter, you notice that another prompt will show up. So this prompt is put more command, I'm ready for you. So that's what it does. But sometimes we may have some problems. Let's say I put 3 plus and I did not include 5 and I click enter. You notice that instead of returning the answer, it gives me a plus sign. So which simply means that arrow is waiting for you to enter more data because what you have written in the console is not complete. So that plus prompt is incompleteness, incomplete command, incomplete code. So you have to complete the command. And if I include 5, which is what the command I want to say 3 plus 5, and I click enter now, you notice it will display now the answer or the results. and it will give me another prompt for me to continue. So if the prompt command is not showing, instead you have a plus prompt, it means it is incomplete, and you need to find a way to get more codes in to based on what you are analyzing or what you are doing at that time. And I simply wanted to say 3 plus 5. So I type in 5 and then it displayed. There are instances where you do the same thing and nothing is just working. You say 3 plus 5, it gives you a plus prompt, incomplete, and you don't know what to do. You are confused, maybe in a very complicated analysis. So what do you do? If you click the escape will just bring a prompt sign for you again. If you don't click that escape, you still have plus, and when you have plus, you are confused. You don't know what it means. So if you just want to start afresh, click escape, the ESC button on your laptop. Escape, and that will solve the problem. But there are other things that you need to know in interacting with RStudio, and that is to know the shortcuts. There are shortcuts on your keyboard that are very, very useful. Already you've learned some, so I don't have to bother much. You already know that if you are at the level of this script editor and you want to run this code you have written, make sure your cursor is on the line of code you want to run, either at the beginning, at the middle, or at the end of the line. And then if you click the shortcut Control Enter, it will run the code, and that is the output in the console. Other shortcuts, let's say I want to comment a statement. Say this is a comment, and I did not put the hashtag sign at the beginning, but I want to comment it. So I simply highlight it like this. Then the shortcut is Control Shift and C, and then it will convert that statement into a comment. I can also highlight again, Control, Shift, and C, and I'll return it back to a non-comment statement. So it depends on what you want to do. So if you have a whole lot of comments, then and you don't have time to write the hashtag, you can just highlight everything, Control, Shift, plus C, and then it will give you the comment sign, Control Shift plus C, it turns it into a comment. Let's say I want to also turn this long code into a comment. It's the same, Control Shift plus turns everything into a comment, as you can see here as well. So it's very important you know this short key. Another short key that you need to know, shortcut key that you need to know that is so important is called the assignment operator. Let's say this is A, which is by the way called a variable, and I want to assign it to I want to say A is equals to, let's say A is equals to say 5. I can run this code, Control Enter, and you notice that in the console has accepted it. And because this is a variable, the environment here will pick it. So A is now a variable that has a value 5 in it. So anytime we can actually do this, we can create a variable and assign values to it. We'll talk about that as we in the next some few other videos. So please watch other videos to get that right. But we don't usually use the equal sign to assign value to a variable. So what do? We use a sign called the assignment operator, which is a lesser than sign with a dash. So this sign actually does exactly the same thing as equal to. If I run this code by Control Enter, you notice it does exactly the same thing at the bottom here. And if I call up the A variable, Control Enter, it will tell me A contains 5, as you can see down here. So there is a shortcut for this lesser than with a dash sign, which is called the assignment operator. And that shortcut is what I'm going to display here. Let's say this is variable b. Want to assign the value 10 to b. So we need an assignment operator. So to do that, it's alternate and dash sign in your system. That's the shortcut. The alternate, which is the ALT button, and the dash sign, which is the dash. Click both, and voila, you see there, that is the assignment operator. So that's the shortcut for it. And you can put 10. And when you run this code by clicking Control and Enter, as a valid code, and it will be displayed in the console. So anytime I call, and you see it also displayed in the environment, because it's another variable I've created, and the variable has the value of 10. So if I call up the variable b and I run it, Control Enter, the RStudio will return 10 for me in the console, letting me know that this variable b has a value of 10 coded inside it. So we're going to stop here today. See you in the next video where we look at the arrow syntax.